Putin's alleged secret nuclear threat directed at Israel is raising serious questions about whether it pressured Benjamin Netanyahu to reconsider and ultimately change his original strategic plan. Israel appears increasingly concerned about the possibility of Russia entering the conflict, especially at a time when Iran's actions are being seen as a significant embarrassment for the United States military on the global stage. Amid Donald Trump's newly proposed blockade targeting Iran, fresh revelations suggest that Russia may have already made a covert and strategic entry into the escalating conflict behind the scenes. Vladimir Putin is now being viewed as potentially moving to counter and disrupt Donald Trump's plan to seize or control Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium before it can be secured. Amid the newly proposed US blockade targeting Iranian ports, fresh details are emerging that point to a secret and carefully worded message from Russia to Israel being revealed to the public. In recent weeks, Russia is reported to have sent multiple direct warnings to Israel concerning the situation involving Iran, signaling growing concern and heightened diplomatic tension between the two sides. Russia has repeatedly cautioned Israel that its actions could potentially trigger what it described as a major nuclear disaster within Iran, emphasizing the severe and far-reaching consequences of any escalation. These warnings from Russia, along with Benjamin Netanyahu's response to them, were reportedly covered by Channel 12 and later cited by the Times of Israel, shedding light on the behind-the-scenes developments. According to reports, Moscow had strongly objected to Israeli airstrikes being conducted in areas close to Iran's Bushehr nuclear power plant, citing serious safety and geopolitical risks. Moscow further stated that Israel's military actions in the region were putting Russian experts as well as local civilians stationed at the plant in significant danger. Russia also highlighted that it had played a key role in partially constructing Iran's Bushehr nuclear facility and continues to assist in its ongoing operations and maintenance. Importantly, Russian officials warned that Israel's continued attacks in sensitive areas were not only risky but were also threatening to damage the broader bilateral relationship between Moscow and Tel Aviv. The Kremlin official said, quote, "You are placing our people in danger. This is a dangerous game that is likely to cause a major nuclear disaster, with grave implications for the Middle East. We call on you to stop," unquote. Due to the warning issued by Russia, the Israeli military reportedly altered its operating procedures in areas close to the Bushehr nuclear facility, indicating a shift in how it conducts missions near sensitive locations. The Israel Defense Forces clarified that it had previously been unaware of the potential dangers in the area and insisted that it had no intention whatsoever of causing harm to Russian personnel stationed there. Reports indicate that both Israel and the United States have carried out military strikes on Iranian targets located in and around the same region, contributing to rising tensions. An April 4th strike conducted near the Bushehr nuclear plant reportedly resulted in the death of an Iranian guard, highlighting the risks associated with operations in such a volatile zone. Following the incident, the chief of the International Atomic Energy Agency stated that there had been no recorded increase in radiation levels, offering some reassurance about nuclear safety. Notably, Russia is currently involved in constructing 2 additional nuclear reactors at the Bushehr plant in Iran, further deepening its strategic and technical engagement in the country's nuclear program. Meanwhile, the Kremlin has reaffirmed that its earlier offer to accept and potentially safeguard Iran's enriched uranium stockpile is still on the table, signaling continued involvement in the issue. This offer from Russia emerged at a time when reports suggested that the United States was considering a special operation aimed at taking control of Iran's enriched uranium reserves. According to those reports, Donald Trump had reviewed potential plans involving a direct incursion into Iranian territory with the objective of seizing the enriched uranium. It is also being reported that a significant stockpile of uranium remains buried under debris at an Iranian nuclear facility that was bombed in June 2025, raising concerns about access and safety. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said, quote, "This proposal was voiced by President Putin in contacts with both the United States and regional states. The offer still stands, but it has not been acted upon," unquote. Dmitry Peskov also stated that Moscow remains prepared to offer its support for any initiatives or diplomatic efforts specifically aimed at reducing tensions and helping to de-escalate the ongoing conflict. Tensions in the Strait of Hormuz appeared to escalate on April 13th when the United States imposed a naval blockade targeting Iranian shipping, following the failure of prior diplomatic talks. Despite the newly enacted US blockade, an oil tanker successfully transited the Strait of Hormuz, according to reports from US military sources monitoring the waterway. The partially loaded oil tanker named Elpis managed to cross the strait on April 13th, as detailed in a CNN report covering the incident amid heightened restrictions. The Elpis vessel reportedly cleared the narrow waterway without incident, even as the US blockade was actively in place against Iranian-linked shipping traffic. The Elpis had been previously sanctioned by the United States due to its alleged connections to Iran's shadow oil trade network operating outside official channels. This transit occurred shortly after President Trump's announced blockade was set to begin, marking an early test of the enforcement measures in the strategic choke point. The development was reported by Iran International, which cited a CNN report confirming the tanker's passage through the restricted area. U.S. President Donald Trump said on April 12 that the U.S. Navy would move to lock down the Strait of Hormuz after negotiations with Iran failed to produce a lasting agreement. Trump also declared that U.S. forces would intercept, on global seas, any ship that continued to pay transit tolls or fees to Iran, signaling a bid to choke off Tehran's maritime revenue. Later, the U.S. military announced that a naval blockade on Iran would formally begin from 10 a.m. Eastern Time on April 13, setting a precise start time for the operation. American commanders stated that they would seek to blockade all maritime traffic entering and exiting Iranian ports, dramatically tightening pressure on Tehran's trade routes. Meanwhile, uncertainty continues to affect other ships navigating the narrow Strait of Hormuz, with many operators hesitant amid the evolving restrictions. The Botswana-registered tanker Oster IA abruptly turned back just minutes after the U.S. deadline passed, altering its course away from the blockade zone. Another vessel, the Rich Starry, reportedly drifted near Iran's Keshem Island, effectively stalling its movement as shipping patterns shifted. Shipping data shows hundreds of vessels are now stranded on either side of the Hormuz choke point, unable to proceed due to the imposed restrictions. This bottleneck at the key global oil waterway carries serious implications for international energy markets, potentially disrupting supply chains worldwide. In response, Iran's elite Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps issued a warning to the US and its allies against any miscalculations, hinting at severe consequences if the plan goes ahead. The IRGC Navy said that one wrong move by the United States would plunge its forces into a deadly whirlpool of destruction, evoking the image of a catastrophic confrontation at sea. According to Iranian media, the IRGC currently controls the strait and is only allowing civilian ships to pass under strict conditions that Tehran itself sets and monitors. The Guard stressed that any foreign warships attempting to pass through the Strait of Hormuz would be treated as a direct provocation and would lead to an armed confrontation. Iranian forces added that attempts by U.S. warships to cross the strait would also constitute a violation of the two-week ceasefire that Tehran and Washington had agreed upon. Tehran's sharp warning followed U.S. claims that 2 American warships had transited the Strait of Hormuz while peace talks were still underway. The U.S. said that the USS Peterson and USS Murphy moved through the strategic waterway during April 11 to 12 as part of ongoing regional operations. Washington stated that this transit was carried out as part of a mission to ensure that the strait was fully clear of sea mines and safe for commercial shipping. Admiral Cooper said the U.S. Navy had already begun the process of establishing a new, safer passage corridor through the mined area of the strait. Cooper added that details of this safe pathway would be shared with the global maritime industry soon, in an effort to reassure shipping companies amid heightened tensions. However, Iran denied that any U.S. military vessels had successfully transited the Strait of Hormuz, directly contradicting the American account. Tehran claimed that 2 U.S. warships attempted to enter, but turned back after facing an Iranian missile lock and drone threats in the narrow waterway. Iran and the U.S. had agreed to a 2-week truce on April 7, but subsequent peace talks held in Pakistan failed to deliver a breakthrough, setting the stage for the latest escalation. After failed peace talks, Iran has warned the United States that Americans may soon miss today's relatively cheap gasoline. Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bakir Kalibaf, made the warning on April 12, according to Press TV. Kalibaf suggested that US consumers could soon grow nostalgic for current fuel prices as tensions keep rising. His comments came shortly after President Donald Trump ordered the US Navy to impose a naval blockade on Iran. The move is aimed at the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical sea lanes for international oil shipments. Tensions between Washington and Tehran have continued to escalate following the collapse of peace talks in Islamabad. According to the American Automobile Association, average gasoline prices in the United States are about $4.125 per gallon. Reports say U.S. gasoline prices have already climbed roughly 40% compared to pre-war levels. Oil prices surged again on April 12, after Washington announced a blockade of Iranian ports starting the next day. U.S. crude jumped around 8% to $104.24 per barrel, while Brent crude rose about 7% to $102.29. Iran, for its part, has already restricted passage through the Strait of Hormuz, allowing only a limited number of countries' vessels to pass. Iran's Revolutionary Guards Navy has stated that the Strait will not return to pre-war conditions for what it calls adversary states. Meanwhile, the US president has said he does not care if Iran chooses not to return to the negotiating table.
I would say it's holding well. Their military is destroyed. Their whole Navy is underwater. You know that. 158 ships are gone. Their Navy's gone. Most of their mine droppers are gone. We have a lot of people, as you know, at 10 o'clock tomorrow, we have a blockade going into effect. That'll be 10 o'clock tomorrow. Other nations are working so that Iran will not be able to sell oil. And that would be very effective. But what we want to do is we want to, and again, we don't need it. What we notice and what we see and what I think is maybe my idea, maybe not, I don't know. But there are many boats heading toward our country to fill up with oil and then go and take it. So they're not going to go through the Hormuz Strait. And ultimately that'll be corrected. But in the meantime, they're using us. We have more oil because of drill baby drill. We have more oil than Russia and Saudi Arabia put together. I think Iran is in very bad shape. I think they're very desperate. We had a meeting that lasted 21 hours. We understand the situation better than anybody, and Iran's in very bad shape. And just so you understand, Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. Will not have. There is no way that they're going to get. They still want it, and they made that clear the other night. Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. Oh, I don't know. I don't care if they come back or not. If they don't come back, I'm fine. Their military is gone. Their missiles are largely depleted. The manufacturing capability for missiles and drones is largely defeated. We've been very nice. We haven't ripped down too many bridges. We did one only because they broke their word. They broke their promise. And remember, their promise was that they were going to open the Hormuz Strait. They didn't do it. They lied. We don't like a pope that's going to say that it's okay to have a nuclear weapon. We don't want a pope that says crime is okay in our cities. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo. He's a very liberal person, and he's a man that doesn't believe in stopping crime. He's a man that doesn't think that we should be toying with a country that wants a nuclear weapon so they can blow up the world. I'm not a fan of Pope Leo.